see you guys in the dark.
I'm a female. I was 22 years old when this happened. I worked at a grocery store, which had been featured in the news. It was never clear where I worked in the clip. I just came back from vacation, and a coworker had told me that some guy had been coming around every day for a week asking for me. When I asked who or why, they told me that they had no idea, but he was around my age and seemed a little off to them. A few hours had passed by, and my coworker came and told me that the guy was back again and asked for me. I'll call him James. In the back room, we had a computer that you could see all the footage from all over the store. I looked and I didn't recognize who James was, but decided to go ask what he wanted anyways. He was clearly drunk and said that he had seen me on TV and wanted to ask me out. I replied with, "I'm sorry, but I'm in a relationship," even though I was single at the time. I said I needed to get back to work. He asked me if he should come with me. I was confused and said that I am working. He then left, and I could see him through the cameras outside the store drinking. A few hours had passed by. He was still waiting for me outside, so I had to use another exit when I left. The next day I came to work, I saw him waiting outside for me outside of the store. He had a huge smile on his face and walked up to me. He was really shy, and he didn't say a word until I said hey to him while passing to get into the store. He followed me inside and said that he needed to talk with me. I asked what's up. He said, "How about we go to the movies?" He was really creepy, and I replied, "I'm sorry, I have a boyfriend, remember?" As I walked away, he started following me and asked if he should come help me with my work. "No, thank you," I replied. Once I looked at the camera footage, and yet again he was waiting for me outside. At this point, I asked a male coworker to escort me safely to the tram every night when my shift had ended. I started getting really scared once this had been going on for a while. He clearly wouldn't leave me alone. I asked my brother if he would drive me to work on his motorcycle and hug me outside of my workplace so that it would look like I had a boyfriend, and James would maybe leave me alone. That really didn't help at all. I started getting messages like, "Is that your boyfriend?" And he doesn't need to know if we go out. I was confused of how he had gotten my number. I asked all my coworkers, and a new one said she had given my number because he had said he's a friend of mine. I was pissed off at this. At this point, I asked my male coworkers to throw him out if he ever came back, which he did come back a lot. A couple of weeks went by without any harassment, and I finally thought that he had left me alone. I was wrong about all this. I came to work one day, and I was in the changing room. I heard that we had a new coworker, and that it's his first day. I didn't think anything about this, and proceeded to change my clothing. Once I got out of the changing room, my jaw had dropped. Another coworker said, "Hey, this is James." I looked in horror as she asked me what was wrong. I said, "I know. This is the creep that's been stalking me for weeks." As James had smiled, I went and searched for my boss to ask him what the fuck was going on. My boss said he had no idea that this was my stalker and kind of laughed it off as no big deal. I told him either he leaves or I will. He said that I wouldn't have to work the same shift as James and that he couldn't fire him. He had lied to me. I had a lot of shifts with him, and wherever I went, he followed without saying a word. He just kept on following me. I would often have my lunch break by the computer so that I could see where he was, and every day I would see him just staring at me from behind as I ate. This went on for a while. He would text me every day, but at work he didn't say a thing. He just stared at me. My boss finally understood what a freak James was, and that he didn't do any work, that he was just stalking me. So he started thinking of ideas how to fire him. One day I noticed James was clearly drunk at work. I told my boss about this. He got fired, and this is when the stalking had finally stopped. I'm a female, and when I was 19, I was on all kinds of dating apps. I had low self-esteem and a real desire for connection. One day, I got a message on OkCupid from this guy that we'll call Brent. Brent had a lot of shared interests with me, video games, and other nerdy hobbies. Seemed like a really nice guy, so I decided to agree to meet him for a date. He looked familiar to me, but I couldn't place him in my mind. I just assumed that it was a result of us living in a decently small town at the time. The day of our date had came, and I got ready, making sure that I looked presentable, but not overdressed since he was taking me to Red Lobster. When he showed up, though, he looked visibly dirty and less groomed than any of his photos. Not one to judge. I wrote it off and tried to give the date a real chance. Then came strike number two. When I came to order chicken, he made a big public show of frustration. He was very insistent that I should have ordered seafood since he specifically took us to a seafood restaurant. I explained that I didn't like seafood and tried to de escalate the conversation. Obviously, from then on, the date was very awkward, but I was sure that he felt mutually turned off. I was wrong about that. Instead, he walked me back to my car. Suddenly, he was very invested again in trying to maintain physical contact with me and acted as if we had just had the most wonderful evening. He kept making moves to kiss me, which I somehow had avoided, and eventually I managed to end the evening with a very awkward and prolonged series of goodbyes. As soon as I got home, I had many, many text messages waiting for me. I assumed that he was going to be bitter about the seafood again or something, but instead it was very passionate. He waxed poetry about how perfect we were for one another, and how he couldn't wait for another date. I ignored his messages, and I went to bed. I wanted to talk to my roommate in the morning about what to do. I was obviously not interested in pursuing this guy, but felt cruel just blocking him overnight. I probably should have, though. It's what my roommate had suggested. We began texting daily over the next couple of days, expressing how we were statistically perfect for each other and based on some quiz on some site that we had met. And he believed wholeheartedly that we were logically ideal as a match. I tried generally letting him down, but he laughed it off and said that he could help me understand someday. I really should have blocked him by then, but I was very much a pushover, even more at that age. During one such conversation about our supposedly inevitable future, he texted me that he was outside. Then I heard knocking on my bedroom window. I had absolutely panicked. I responded to ask what he was doing, and he confessed very casually that he worked at my apartment complex doing maintenance and janitorial staff. That is where I recognized him. I realized too late. As it turns out, he had recognized me from the moment that he sent his message and told me he had always known we would be together. That's right, the date didn't turn into him stalking me. He already had been stalking. I had lost my cool and sent him a very long message full of venom and threats of what I would do if he did not leave me alone. It didn't work, though. He told me I was being silly and would come to understand very soon. He told me it was very inevitable, and that I was just being stubborn. He acted like I was denying the existence of gravity. He was so overly affectionate and so condescending regarding my refusals. Of course, I had blocked his number, but that only resulted in him coming to my window more regularly. I should have done this much sooner, but I eventually contacted my landlord. I did not contact the police as I felt at the time it wasn't bad enough to do so. Thankfully, the talk with my landlord showed his activity significantly, and I moved not long after that. Nothing more came of it. It has been 10 years since. So I'd met this guy through a friend that he went to school with. I was 18, and these kids were 16, or around this age. These kids would come over, and we would smoke some pot together. And then I moved to the other side of town. They found me, and we started hanging out once again. Then, as I turned 18 or 19, I developed schizophrenia. So I got in some trouble and went and got help for my mental illness for 5 or 6 years in the city. When I came back from the city, I started playing video games online and somehow ran into this guy that knew one of the boys, now adults, because 5 or 6 years had passed. So this guy was asking for my Facebook, so I added him. And then this was the start of the bad thing. He would get $25 gift cards, and he, as it turns out, was gifted an account that one of the original boys had had. He wanted to buy gold and cosmetics. This guy couldn't figure out the way the credit card system worked, so I helped him with it. He did this every week for months, and every time he would get a new card, he was messaging me on Facebook every 10 to 20 minutes, all night long, while I'm trying to sleep. So I put my foot down, and I blocked him because I was starting to get sick from the constant phone vibrating all day and all night. Also, I recovered an old Facebook of mine. He messaged the other account for 3 years, every 1 to 2 months. So fast forward when I've been clear for him for about a year. I could play on PC by a window. This lady had moved in next to me. I hear yelling outside. I go outside to see what's going on. The lady apparently had a peeping Tom, and they chased this guy a few blocks and lost him. That was her first day here. So then, like a week later, my apartment deadbolt breaks in a very weird way. I'm kind of assuming at this point that this guy was maybe looking in my window for weeks, and I had never noticed him. Then a woman moves in, so he went to her window. Only thing that makes sense. So after 2 or 3 years, I run into the stalker online. He copied all my outfits, even made his username similar to mine, making people that I know for years ask if he was my alternative. Anyways, I avoid him at all costs.
If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, like, and hit the bell for notifications on future videos and become a stalker of the night. And I'll see you next time.